The global economy has been hit by a shockwave. This time it's not a pandemic or a financial crisis, but a blast from the past, a trade war. On April 6, 2025, President Trump announced new tariffs on a wide range of goods from China. This move sent shockwaves through global markets, particularly in Asia, which has borne the brunt of previous rounds of tariffs. This essay will delve into the immediate impact of Trump's tariffs on Asian markets, examining the responses from major economies like Japan, South Korea, Australia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and mainland China. We'll also analyze the retaliatory tariffs imposed by China and the vulnerability of Asian economies in the face of escalating trade tensions. Finally, we'll look at the broader stock market since Trump's inauguration to understand the long-term impact of his trade policies. The return of tariff wars is a worrying development for the global economy. These protectionist measures threaten to disrupt global supply chains, increase prices for consumers, and dampen economic growth. The situation is still unfolding, and its full impact remains to be seen. However, one thing is certain: the trade war is back, and its consequences will be felt worldwide. President Trump's decision to impose new tariffs on Chinese goods marks a significant escalation in his ongoing trade war with Beijing. These tariffs, which target a broad range of products, are the latest in a series of protectionist measures implemented by the Trump administration. Trump's justification for these tariffs is rooted in his America First policy, which aims to protect American jobs and industries from what he perceives as unfair trade practices by China. He has repeatedly accused China of currency manipulation, intellectual property theft, and forced technology transfer. "We're not going to let China take advantage of us anymore," Trump declared in a press conference announcing the new tariffs. "They've been ripping us off for too long. It's time to level the playing field." These tariffs, however, have been met with criticism from businesses and economists alike, who argue that they will ultimately harm American consumers and businesses by raising prices and disrupting supply chains. Despite these concerns, Trump has remained steadfast in his belief that tariffs are a necessary tool to protect American interests. The immediate impact of Trump's tariffs was felt most acutely in Asian markets, which experienced a sharp sell-off in the wake of the announcement. Japan's Nikkei 225 index plunged over 8%, while South Korea's KOSPI index tumbled by about 5%. Australia's S&P/ASX 200 index also fell by more than 6%. These declines reflect the deep integration of Asian economies into global supply chains, particularly those linked to China. Many Asian countries rely heavily on exports to China, and the new tariffs are expected to disrupt these trade flows, hurting businesses and weighing on economic growth. The market reaction has been swift and severe, noted one analyst. Investors are clearly concerned about the impact of these tariffs on Asian economies, which are already facing headwinds from slowing global growth. The uncertainty surrounding the trade war is also fueling market volatility. Investors are unsure about the duration or eventual outcome of the dispute, making them hesitant to make long-term investment decisions. This uncertainty is likely to persist until a resolution is reached, keeping Asian markets on edge. China wasted no time in responding to Trump's tariff offensive. Within hours of the announcement, Beijing announced retaliatory tariffs on a range of American goods, targeting sectors like agriculture and manufacturing. These tariffs, which mirror the 34% rate imposed by the US, are designed to inflict economic pain on American businesses and pressure the Trump administration to back down. China's Commerce Ministry issued a statement condemning the US tariffs as protectionist and unilateral. The statement vowed that China would take all necessary measures to safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. This tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs has raised fears of a full-blown trade war between the world's two largest economies. Such a scenario would have devastating consequences for the global economy, disrupting trade, stifling investment, and potentially leading to a global recession. While both sides have expressed a willingness to negotiate a solution, the path to a trade deal remains fraught with obstacles. Both sides have dug in their heels, and neither seems willing to back down from their demands. Section 5, Japan, South Korea, and Australia, grappling with the shockwaves. The trade war between the US and China is having a ripple effect across Asia, with major economies like Japan, South Korea, and Australia feeling the heat. These countries are heavily reliant on trade with both the US and China, and the escalating tariffs threaten to disrupt their economies. Japan, a major exporter of cars and electronics, is particularly vulnerable to the trade war. The country's auto industry is already reeling from US tariffs on steel and aluminum, and the new tariffs on Chinese goods are expected to further dampen demand. South Korea, a major producer of semiconductors and smartphones, is also feeling the pinch. The country's tech giants like Samsung and LG rely heavily on Chinese components for their products. The tariffs are expected to increase costs for these companies, potentially hurting their competitiveness. Australia, a major exporter of iron ore and coal to China, is also bracing for the impact of the trade war. The slowdown in the Chinese economy, coupled with the tariffs, is expected to weigh on demand for Australian commodities, hurting the country's export earnings. Section 6: Hong Kong and Taiwan caught in the crossfire. The trade war between the United States and China has also ensnared Hong Kong and Taiwan, two economies with close ties to both countries. Hong Kong, a major financial hub, is already facing headwinds from months of pro-democracy protests, and the trade war is adding to the uncertainty. Taiwan, a major producer of electronics and semiconductors, is also feeling the heat. The island nation is caught in a geopolitical tug-of-war between the United States and China, and the trade war is exacerbating these tensions. Stock markets in both Hong Kong and Taiwan have tumbled in recent days, reflecting investor concerns about the impact of the trade war. The Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong has fallen by about 10%, while the TAIEX index in Taiwan has dropped by a similar amount. The trade war is a reminder of the economic and geopolitical risks facing these two economies. Their close ties to both the United States and China make them vulnerable to the fallout from the trade dispute. Section 7: Vulnerability of Asian economies' dependence on US-China trade. The trade war between the United States and China has exposed the vulnerability of Asian economies, many of which are heavily reliant on trade with both countries. This dependence has fueled Asia's economic growth in recent decades, but it also makes the region susceptible to shocks in the global trading system. The tariffs imposed by the United States and China are disrupting supply chains, raising costs for businesses, and dampening consumer demand. This is hurting economic growth across the region and raising concerns about a potential recession. The trade war is a wake-up call for Asian economies, said one economist. It highlights the need for these countries to diversify their economies and reduce their dependence on a single trading partner. Some Asian countries are already taking steps to mitigate the impact of the trade war. They are seeking new trading partners, boosting domestic demand, and investing in infrastructure to improve their competitiveness. However, these efforts will take time to bear fruit, and the trade war is likely to continue to weigh on Asian economies in the meantime. Section 8: Stock market trends. Since Trump's inauguration, a roller coaster ride. The trade war between the United States and China is the latest chapter in a volatile period for global stock markets. Since President Trump's inauguration in 2017, Trump's policies, particularly his tax cuts and deregulation, initially boosted stock markets, but his protectionist trade policies have since fueled uncertainty and volatility. The chart below shows the performance of major stock markets since Trump's inauguration. As you can see, the United States stock market has outperformed most other markets, but it has also experienced significant volatility. The trade war has had a particularly negative impact on Asian stock markets, which have underperformed other regions. This reflects the region's vulnerability to the trade dispute and the uncertainty surrounding its eventual outcome. The stock market is a forward-looking indicator, and the recent volatility suggests that investors are concerned about the future direction of the global economy. The trade war is a major source of uncertainty, and it is likely to continue to weigh on markets until a resolution is reached. Section 9. Conclusion: Uncertainty looms large as trade war simmers. The trade war between the United States and China has cast a long shadow over the global economy, particularly in Asia. The tariffs imposed by both sides are disrupting trade, raising costs for businesses, and dampening economic growth. The situation is fluid, and its full impact remains to be seen. Asian economies are particularly vulnerable to the trade war due to their dependence on trade with both the United States and China. The trade dispute is a wake-up call for these countries to diversify their economies and reduce their reliance on a single trading partner. The stock market volatility since Trump's inauguration reflects the uncertainty surrounding his policies, particularly his trade agenda. The trade war is a major source of concern for investors, and it is likely to continue to weigh on markets until a resolution is reached. The path to a trade deal remains uncertain. Both sides have dug in their heels and neither seems willing to back down from their demands. The longer the trade war continues, the greater the risk of a global economic slowdown.